Welcome back, guys, or if you're new to my channel, this is Automotive Anonymous, and today I get to bring you a side-by-side comparison of two of Mazda's best-selling vehicles. On the left, we have the Mazda 3 hatchback. This can also be offered in a sedan, but this specific example is the machine gray metallic pink color with red leather seats, and it even has a 6-speed manual transmission, which is not offered on the CX-30. But the CX-30, it's in polymetallic gray metallic. It also has red leather seats, and it costs a few $1,000s more. So in today's video, this side-by-side comparison, we need to answer the age-old question of, is the CX-30 just a lifted CX-3? Did Mazda really just add on a lift kit and tack on a 0 to the end of the Mazda 3 nameplate? Or is there a lot more than meets the eye? So today I gotta give you everything from the front to the back, to the doors, the interior, everything on the sides of the vehicles, and in between. So if you guys get anything out of this side-by-side comparison, please consider giving it a like. That lets me know you want to watch more videos like this. It helps me know to make more like this. Subscribe if you haven't already, and comment your thoughts and opinions below, as well as know that I have taken the Mazda 3 through the car wash. So the machine gray metallic paint is very shiny, but the polymetallic gray on this one I have not, because I want to give you guys an example of what a dirty vehicle looks like. Online, and when you buy one from the showroom floor, you're mostly going to see what they look like clean, but you might want to know how these vehicles look when they're dirty. And I'll also show you some other examples from lighter to darker colors for Mazdas, so that you guys can make a more informed decision, because the vehicles will never look as good as they do on camera or as good as they do the day you take delivery. Anyways, let's get right into it. And it's worth me pointing out that the main purpose for this video is not to compare the specific trim levels between the S Premium over here to the Carbon Edition over here. It's more just for the models, not the trim levels. So I want you guys to see what these look like, the differences in them, the similarities in them, and what is actually noticeable when you do stack them up side by side. Because if you had these lined up next to you, their options similarly, they're going to cost very similar, but you have to decide option A or option B, which one might be the right option for you. And they are very close. They have a lot of shared interior bits, a lot of shared exterior bits, and even the price points really aren't that different. The sedan is a little bit cheaper than the hatch. It's by $1,000. The sedan is $24,000. This one starts at $25,000, which is basically the same price point at the CX-30, what it starts at, which is $25,000. So if you get the base, most bare bones model, they can be priced about the same. If you get the most loaded out version, which both of these offer a turbo engine, but only the Mazda 3 offers a manual transmission, otherwise they're 6-speed automatics all around, they can be in the upper 30s. This one specifically is so loaded out that even though it doesn't have a turbo, it's still in the upper 30s. Meanwhile, the Mazda 3 hatch is about $33,000 before Goody Motor Mazda gives you guys an awesome discount for referencing the video. But if we just look at these side by side right from the get-go, you'll notice that the CX-30 has roof rails, and they're silver. It also has the silver accent around the back half of the window, kind of like a hockey stick. Might make you think that this was assembled in Canada, but no, the CX-30 is actually assembled in Mexico. The CX-3, its VIN number starts with a J, so it was actually assembled in Japan. It still has the hockey stick, but it is shaped a little bit differently. You can tell that the back glass is smaller than the back glass on the CX-30, and we're going to get into that a little bit more later. And not having the roof rails and not having as much ground clearance with only 5.5 inches versus about 8 inches really puts this as more of the street-going version of this platform. It also is only front-wheel drive. Technically, you can get an all-wheel drive version, but I believe that is only offered on the turbo trim levels, at least in the United States market. But thankfully, these are both top safety picks. They both have a lot of standard safety features to make them top safety pick ratings to be 5-star crash test rated. But their gas tanks, what's kind of funny is the smaller vehicle, the Mazda 3, has a bigger gas tank than the Mazda 30. This has a 12.7 gallon tank. That one has a half gallon larger at 13.2. It also gets better MPG. That one's rated for 26 city, 36 on the highway, and that's even with having a manual transmission. Whereas this one is rated for a combined 29 because it gets 26 in the city, 33 on the highway. So already we're starting to see some differences, but with 8 inches of ground clearance, having all-wheel drive as standard, having the black plastic cladding that I know a lot of you guys actually like, and it does seem to fit the darker colors of Mazda a little bit better than the lighter colors in my opinion. You will notice that the cladding comes all the way to the front, to the bottom of the bumper, and very much so on the back of the bumper, whereas the Mazda CX-3, this is all painted, which you might think is a more expensive option. And then these both have 18-inch wheels with around 9/32 of tread depth on their factory all-season tires, with really bright LED headlights up front. But before we get to the back, I just want to show you guys under the hood really quickly, because these both have the same engine, 191 peak horsepower at about 6,000 RPM, and about 186 pound-feet of torque at 4,000 RPM. So you do have to rev them out, but it is very enjoyable to row your own gears in the Mazda 3 versus the automatic. The automatic, it does feel like an old school transmission. It's very reliable, very stout, but it does shift kind of slow. And because of the power band of these vehicles, especially the turbos, they really don't actually rev out that high when they're automatically controlled through the computer. But you will notice a bigger 2.5-liter engine fits pretty snugly in this engine bay. It's transversely mounted, so the serpentine belt, you can see it moving right there on the alternator. It has an engine bracket holding it to the chassis of the vehicle. You have the induction side right there, the intake manifold, the exhaust manifold back there. Both of these are optioned with a turbo engine, making up to 250 horse, 320 torque, which is fantastic to have that level of power in either of these two vehicles, because most of the competitors, Honda and Toyota, they don't offer anything with over 300 torque at this price point. And at this small of a vehicle, then you have the battery, the fuse box, and all the other peripheral items. You'll notice the engine maybe sticks out a little bit higher in the Mazda 3, but thankfully these are reliable, so even though they might be kind of tightly spaced, you can identify a lot of mechanical components on it, and you're really not going to have to worry about maintenance on these for a long time with how proven they are and how long they've been around, especially the fact that these are in bigger vehicles like the CX-5 and the 50. So if they can move those vehicles for hundreds of thousands of miles, it's going to be less stressful for the engine and the transmission to move these lighter weight ones. And overall, they do share a lot of similar dimensions. They are both about 14.6 feet long, but if you buy the sedan version of the Mazda 3, it's actually a lot longer. It's 15.25 feet long. The wheelbase is just under 9 feet on this, which is actually a couple inches longer than the Mazda CX-30 by about 3 inches, I believe. So you can already tell it's not the same chassis. It's not exactly the same platform. And then this one is about 4.7 feet tall, just under 6 feet wide. This one is a couple inches taller and about the same width. So it's not just like the Subaru video I did, where the Crostrek is basically just a lifted Impreza. It does seem to me that there are more substantial mechanical, physical differences between these two vehicles than there are on some other very similar vehicles. So if we look at the back and we notice what is similar and what is different, there's actually a lot of differences. First of all, we need to talk about the plastic cladding. Matte finish on this, shiny black on that, so that's more likely to scratch, but also this is less likely to be an off-roader. So when it's shined up, when it's looking pretty good and pretty new, I do personally like that shiny black, but I know long-term that's maybe the direction that you want to go with. And then the hatches, they're completely different. So the CX-30, again, is just not a lifted CX-3. It's not just a zero tacked on, because you'll notice that underneath the Mazda emblem, which is more indented into the vehicle, there's a lot of paint, there's a lot of door before you get to the release, which would be right there. Whereas on this one, it's a little bit more 3D, and the button to open it up is right here. You'll also notice that the lights, while looking very similar in the same idea and the same DNA as the CX-30, they do look just a little bit different. These seem to be longer and more narrow. I also have them turned off right now just so you guys can see what it looks like when the LEDs are not turned on. They also reach around a little bit further than they do on the CX-30. But when we open them up, if you do go with the hatchback like this, looks like it's locked, so I'm going to have to go pop that open separately. This is actually pretty easy to lift open on about a 60-degree day like today. The shocks seem to do a really good job. You can also see that you can lock it and throw it down, and then the whole vehicle is locked up. But you have about 20 cubic feet of room on the hatchback Mazda 3, and you have about 13.2 if you just go the sedan. So not only is the sedan larger, but it also has less cargo capacity. Hence one of the reasons why sedans, while I do personally really like them, they are disappearing. But you'll notice that the entryway is about the same height on both of these vehicles, despite the overall CX-30 being a taller roofline. So that is kind of interesting. They both have a spare tire and Bose subwoofer underneath the carpet down here. It seems to be insulated pretty well. It doesn't seem like there's really any cheapness to this whole design that I could find. You do have some extra options, and I'll overlay some footage of with the back seats down. Both of these honestly look about the same. The seats are kind of inclined up because they're thick, they're cushy, and there's really just not a lot of room in the back of these. You can tell this is a very squatty platform compared to some longer vehicles like a true wagon. But it is nice that Mazda gives you LED headlights. The roof or the hatch opens high enough that you're not going to hit your head unless you're super tall. And they're easy to reach, easy to throw down. Unfortunately, they don't have a power liftgate on either of these two vehicles. But as we come around in front into the side of these vehicles, you'll notice that the LED headlights are a slightly higher beam pattern on the 30 than the 3. I don't know why on camera that's blinking. In reality, it is not blinking. That is just an illusion of the frames per second or whatever. But you do have blind spot monitoring. You do have turn signals at this price point, which is pretty cool. The doors open really large on both of these vehicles, and you're greeted with really nice materials, a nice big entryway. There's nothing on the door sill. Mazda could have added something there that would have probably cost a few extra bucks. But honestly, it's just a really nice entryway. You even have that third pedal for the manual transmission and then a rubberized dead pedal. You have a knee airbag, the hood release, the storage, memory seats, extra options. Traction control is actually a button on this one that you can turn off, which is pretty neat. It's also pretty easy to spin the tires even on this naturally aspirated version. And then you have the lighting stock, the non-heated leather-wrapped wheel, and you have a small sunroof on both of these. But I want you guys to notice throughout how high the roof line is and how big the windows are, because that's a substantial difference even between these two vehicles. But when we hop in here, at 5'11", I fit pretty darn good in the Mazda 3. I keep wanting to call it like Model 3 or something different. But honestly, you have the same digital gauge in the center that you can go through with info. You have the analog gauges on the side. You have the same screen, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. It's controlled through the scrolly dial. And then this is what it looks like to have the shifter in here. I love how notchy it is, just like my old Miata used to be. It sounds just like it's so mechanical. But I don't like that the cup holders are also underneath the dashboard. You can't have a huge drink, but honestly, we probably shouldn't be drinking drinks that large anyways. And then you have a wireless charger, and then you have the same sliding center armrest that you have on that one. It's not my favorite design because you have to slide it all the way back to open it. You can't open it from up here. It's kind of weird, but it's large and it has some plugins. That's cool. And then these look like garage door openers and auto-dimming mirrors, and you even have a sunglass holder on this vehicle, which is pretty cool. But let me hop out of this and into the Mazda CX-30. You're going to notice a lot of similar features. Blind spot monitoring and turn signals, all of that stuff is the same. Unfortunately, this doesn't seem to have proximity key features either, so you might have to use the remote to unlock it before you open it. But the door panel, again, opens really large. The materials are nice. This one, though, doesn't have the red accents right here like you do on the Mazda 3. So kind of interesting. Otherwise, I like what it's doing. I like that there's a lot of similarity. You'll notice that the dashboard layout, the options, everything looks the same. The red leather seats seriously look fantastic. And when we sit inside here, at 5'11", I still fit very comfortably. You have basically the same layout as you did in the other one. Same controls, same similar-ish wireless charger design, but a lot of this is very similar. Electronic parking brake, auto vehicle hold, and then the sliding center armrest. So far up front, I wouldn't say either of these is necessarily better than the other one. They both have heated seats. Neither of these have a heated steering wheel, but again, it's not about the features and the individual trim levels. It's about the overall models. And I would say sitting in the front, the windows are about the same size. The windshield is about the same size. Overall visibility from the front half of the vehicle is very similar, so I like that a lot. Anyways, let's hop into the back of the Mazda 3. The back of the Mazda 3 is where things get interesting, and by interesting, I mean you're reminded that you're driving a very small vehicle. The door panel, though, thankfully does open really large, bigger than probably my Toyota RAV4, so it's going to be easier to get car seats in here, to get pets and kennels and stuff like that. You also have all the child anchors, which is fantastic, and again, one of the reasons why these are such safe vehicles, Mazda really puts a lot of care and effort into it, especially the fact that you even have red leather on the door panel in the back. But at 5'11", I do not sit very comfortably back here, which might be misleading on camera because you're like, okay, you have a lot of knee room, but my head is like rubbing the ceiling. You have this area where the roof bulges out because of the sunroof, where it has to slide back into the ceiling, which means you have so little room right here. It's not as big of a vehicle as some other ones with the sunroof, and the roof line is lower. So not only is it not a higher roof, but also you don't have the same big opening, the big area right there. If you guys can see that in the shadow for your head, that's the bulge, and it's rubbing my head, and I don't like it one little bit. But you have a nice armrest. Everything else back here is cushy, is fine. But when the driver has their armrest console all the way back, it impedes the third seat in the back. Look at that. They have no knee room, technically, kind of, which is kind of interesting. But again, just to show you guys, test drive, sit in these, ride them, have your family sit in them before you buy one, because these are fun cars to drive. They're awesome, but they're tight and they're small. And look at how small that window is. I'm touching the glass and my hand is literally the same vertical height as it. So we'll do that same thing in the CX-30 and I'll see it's a little bit nicer back there. Maybe before we hop in though, I'll show you the glass difference right here again. So if I hold my hand to the back, I mean, it looks smaller in comparison there, but there's a lot more glass on this one. I hope you guys can see that already. And I've never thought that the back of these are huge, but they are certainly bigger than the Mazda 3. Again, materials are about the same as the front, so there's no surprises. There's no shortcomings back here. I just wish you also had the red insert. I can't imagine that would have cost a whole lot more. And then at 5'11" sitting behind myself, I do think I have this seat a little bit further back than I did in the other car, so it does look closer, but at least I have more headroom. You can maybe see the bulge and the indentation in the roof. It is better in this one for me personally. And then you also have vents back here, which I really appreciate. And then this is with the armrest slid forward. Remember, when it's back, it's to about right there, which is a little bit unpleasant to say the least. So as I wrap this video up, I just want to mention this was more impromptu than most of my side-by-side comparisons. Let me know what you guys think, if you like more structure, if you like me more just sharing whatever is currently on my mind as I am looking at these vehicles and, you know, just my own thoughts and opinions of them that otherwise would normally be in my head. But I do want to mention that this is a sedan, as is that compared to the next couple, which are the hatchbacks. So keep in mind, these again are a little bit longer. They have less storage. And now it's time to show you some real quick examples of dirty Mazdas, because you don't often see this. And I don't want you guys to be misled. The black, like all black cars, look horrendous. This one also doesn't look very good. The machine gray seems to be hiding it a little bit better compared to the shiny new one I have over here. But now look at a white example. This one actually looks like it's been cleaned. Until we look at the black accents, you'll notice that, yep, they're dirty. But that's why I like white cars. For those of you who follow my channel, white and silver literally looks so darn good, even when it's filthy. You also don't notice a lot of rock chips. Here's the zircon sand color, which is fairly new, I think as of last year or a couple of years ago. It's hiding it pretty well. But again, you just have to look at the black accents to tell the full story. And the same theme follows along all the way down there. But I do want to show you the new Aero Gray on the CX-30. I think this looks fantastic. But again, same story. Light paint colors hide filth. Dark does not. Anyways, guys, as we wrap this video up, I like both of these vehicles. I had a lot of fun driving the manual Mazda 3 today. I haven't driven a Mazda 3 in 2 years since I drove a turbo model. So this was a really fun experience to drive one of these. Those of you who follow my channel, you know I've driven a lot of the CX-30s, which line that whole row. And you can't really go wrong either way. But the CX-30, which is small even for its own subcompact crossover, it is fairly small. But the Mazda 3 seems to be a little bit smaller. The price point on average reflects that, because more of these are front-wheel drive than all-wheel drive. But you can have a manual transmission. You can have a little bit cheaper vehicle. And if you're not hauling a bunch of people and you don't want to have a two-door sports car, then maybe something like this could be the right vehicle for you. You can get a lot of luxurious creature comforts, a lot of nice features without spending a lot of money compared to the other automakers that give you the same options of red leather seats. Please comment below if there are other $30,000 cars with red leather that's heated. I would personally love to know so I can go find one to drive. But anyways, guys, if you got anything out of this impromptu review today, please consider liking it. Comment your thoughts and opinions below. Otherwise, check out Goody Motor Mazda. They are seriously one of the best dealerships in the nation. They have sold to you guys watching my videos as far away as Alabama. So let's try to get an even further viewer to purchase, potentially. I don't know. I'm not a salesman, so it's up to you. But anyways, I wish you guys the best. I hope you take care. Like this video, comment those thoughts, and subscribe. Until next time, see ya.